All right, all right. Good evening, everyone tuning in live this evening. It is 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. Hope everybody is doing well. Hope your week is going well. Hope y'all had a good weekend. Waiting for the folks to come on
Like I
in
said, it
this
looked like you
evening.
were mute.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Awesome, awesome.
So how's it going?
It's pretty good. How's your week been?
All right. A little slow, but I'm not gonna complain.
Okay,
Get
okay,
more work done that way.
okay. That's good. That's good stuff, man. I know last week we had a pretty good, interesting topic, and so continuing that today too as well. Uh, Say, hey, Jacqueline. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for joining us this evening. And those of you tuning in, I know we do have our topic today, but also if you have any questions at all, any questions, anything that's kind of close to what we're talking about, or just something that you want to kind of address, or something you need clarity on, please feel free to drop it in the chat, and Eric will be able to answer that question, or myself to give some pointers on that. So please let us know if there's any concerns. You should not walk away not having some information that you can go home and say, hey, let me figure out the next steps and put a plan together, or have peace with what your decision and what you are doing with regarding your finances, your life, your mindset, and all of that. Um, as more folks tuning in, but yes, but Eric, you said it was pretty chilled this week, and so we got some interesting things coming up in the, I guess, the filing tax world coming up. Some
Correct.
deadlines.
Yeah, the extensions for the business returns is coming up around September 15th. So this is around the time that clients start calling to set up their appointments. Um, it's usually slow till about August 15th. Like I said, like those last 4 weeks. So then it's the clients who did extensions for their business returns, and then obviously, if they did extensions for the business returns, more than likely they did it as well for their personals, and those are due October 15th. So we usually have to have all that done before September 15th, obviously, to get the business ones turned in on time. So it gets pretty busy for those up to, like I said, the 15th, and then all the people who are just regular 1040 returns, we get pretty busy on those up till October. And then November, if you're going fiscal year for your I'm sorry, calendar year for your nonprofit, you should open your ears right now. Those are due by November 15th, as you know, with those extensions.
Oh yeah, I need to do that. I do that. Are you gonna do that for me?
So your thing, so I can't see you, dog. Just so you know, I can hear you, but
Yeah,
I can't see you.
yeah, you're
Oh,
good.
okay,
Yeah,
you're in the background.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. I'm working on something right now, but yeah,
okay.
go ahead.
Yep. So that's it. So just everybody make sure that you set up your appointments with your tax professional. If you are a 1065, 1120, or 1120S, make sure if you filed an extension, those are due by September 15th. Again, the regular 1040s, those are due by October 15th. And then if you have a 990, if you're doing a 990 or 990 EZ, those are due by November 15th. Again, if you are calendar year for your nonprofit.
And that would also, so we would already have to have our franchise tax for a nonprofit in Texas already filed out, right? Because I
Yeah.
know sometimes some people forget.
So apparently, those are coming out earlier this year. Usually, it's around the first week of September. But somebody was just here in the office today. They had got the letter in the mail today, actually, and they came by here and we did it really quick. So, yep, those were due way back in May. But again, here in Texas, since you're only having to file the owner one, you don't have to pay the $50 fee for the no tax due report. So if you are somebody who is an LLC, and you have not filed your franchise tax, or your registration hasn't filed or whatever, look out in the mail because, again, like I said, those apparently have been filed early this year. Usually, I don't start getting phone calls on those till about, like I said, around the first week of September. But for some reason, they're coming out early this year, so you'll probably get that sometime in the mail, either today, yesterday, or sometime later on this week. So, you still there? Are you still there, Isaac?
Yes, I'm still here.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I'm over here trying to fix something, but I can't change it since I'm live already. But
mhm.
we're gonna go ahead and move forward. Let's see if I can change it. If I can change it, it'll be great. Um, but yeah, let's go ahead and go into the topic today. Today's show is on Master Your Money Live with Eric Anderson is the hardest financial decisions you'll ever make. The choices that shape more than your bank account. I think today, just kind of help those viewers understand, Eric, that the biggest financial decisions aren't always about money, right? About choosing uh, wisely, making decisions, really thinking about, I guess, your life plans, whether how you choose to spend the money, or even then making those decisions that would either cost you or in the long run, right? You're like, well, if you can't afford to go date, maybe you should, right? So like
I see a
like
lot of those podcasts, dude. They crazy out here talking about
it's like,
if you
look,
can't
if you don't
afford,
have money to be
you
dating,
should be
then
out
maybe
here
you
dating.
should not date,
That's
right?
that's crazy.
There's
Yeah,
only so many times you could go to the park and walk around and grab a bottle of water and call it a date, right? But yeah,
and it's crazy. But yep,
but yeah,
absolutely.
I also was thinking like those decisions that you make, whether it's married, having children, starting a business, leaving a job for a new job, or buying a home, moving to another city, or you're planning for retirement. And we talk about last time aging parents. How do you making these decisions? So a lot of the things we're thinking about, but we're not really planning for those things. So when we think about what are your thoughts on that, Eric? And what do you think the biggest financial decision people kind of underestimate today?
So I wouldn't say they underestimate it so much today, because depending on who you talk to, who you listen to, and things like that, as far as financial decisions and stuff like that, a big thing that people say all the time, um, I'm going to say it. It's your partner. That is probably your biggest financial decision that you're gonna make, because that's just not your marriage partner. Like, I'm not just in love with this person. This person has to be my partner. We have to be evenly yoked. We have to have, the same type of mindset. We have to have the same type of goals. We have to try to be on the same path on the things that we're trying to achieve and stuff like that. If not, I know a lot of people say all the time, you have couples where one people says, I'm the saver and the other person is the spender, and we make that work or whatever. But a lot of times, sadly, as we know, a very, very high percentage of marriages end in divorce. And why do they end in divorce? What's the number one reason?
Finances.
Finances. Finances. Because, maybe you met somebody and you thought that they thought a certain type of way, or you didn't know, that they were like a closet gambler, or or they really weren't as ambitious as they said they were going to be, or that you thought they were, so they didn't have certain type of goals. Or again, they were like a big spender. When you met them, you didn't know they had a whole bunch of credit card debt, or they had bad debt and things like that. These are the type of things that you're supposed to talk about in marriage counseling, right? You took marriage counseling, right?
Yeah.
Did you talk about those type of things in those meetings?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I did, but that was a hard.
okay.
I did because I'm about that life. But if you
Oh,
skip
Lord
that
have
part
mercy.
because you want to get married really bad, then that's different. We didn't
Correct.
skip that part at all. So I
Yeah.
think sometimes if you don't, take those necessary steps, sometimes that's the deal breaker.
That
And
could be the deal breaker
yeah,
because,
yeah,
yeah, like you said, as you
yep,
go through life, your partner could really and truly be a stumbling block for you. If you have certain type of goals and your partner is impeding you, stopping, hurting, whatever word you wanna use as far as trying to help you reach those goals, it could really be a backbreaker for you. The videos we watch all the time, from the Dave Ramseys and the Ramettes and people like that when they show these couples, that's really the biggest thing. Even the Caleb stuff that I really don't like to watch, but when he has the couples on there, it's usually what? It's usually one person is, they have one type of mindset and their partner has a whole different type of mindset. Even like I say, when I tell people all the time when I meet with couples, it's very, I won't say it's rare, but there are times when you come in here and one of them is really kind of looking around, not really doesn't want to talk, really doesn't want to open up because they don't want somebody to tell them what they're supposed to do with their money, how they're supposed to save money, how they're supposed to reach their goals and stuff like that. Because again, it's really not important to you. And that can really be a backbreaker if you're somebody who, like you said, obviously, like me and you talk all the time, we know you have goals, right? We know there are things that you want to accomplish. There's a way you want to retire. There's a way that you want to be able to pay for your kids, to go to school, where you want to live, things like that. But if those aren't the type of conversations, if those aren't the type of things that a couple is having those conversations, it can really be a detriment to your marriage. And that's how a lot of couples end up getting divorced, right?
yep.
Because one of them's a spender, one of them's a saver, one of them is out here spending up credit cards. One of you might, again, I hate to use the word as ambitious as the other person. So one of them, sadly, like people say, people come along for a season where you've outgrown your spouse, point blank. I know you've heard people say that all the time. Like you have goals and you have ambitions, and your spouse does not. And again, I'm not here trying to break up couples today or whatever, but those are just statistics, right? There's so many, such a high percentage of divorces, and people would think, oh, it's cheating, infidelity, and stuff like that. No, the highest reason why people divorce is because of finances. And a lot
What's
of times, if you took marriage counseling, if you, really sat down and had these type of conversations before you got married, you're right. It could be a deal breaker as far as getting married, but at least you're not going to commingle your life together like that. At least you're going to understand where the two of you are before you get married, so you don't go down this road and then eventually get divorced, right?
wow? Yeah, yeah.
So it's really tragic when you think about that, and a lot of couples and things like that. It can really be a stressor. It really can. Imagine if you're both traveling down the same road, and so many people say, they're stressing with bills and things like that when you're both trying to travel down the same road. But think about if one of you is traveling one way and the other one's pulling you in the opposite direction, or you're not both laser focused or both thinking about the same goals. This is how we want to retire. We want to pay all of our bills off. We want to be able to do these type of things and stuff like that. But you're not evenly yoked on that discussion, it can really and truly be a big problem for you. So, for a married couple, that would be the biggest. A person who is thinking about getting married, that is probably the biggest financial decision that you should make. It's right up there, obviously, with going to college, what type of career I want to have, the job, what type of money I want to make, things like that. That is really a very, very important thing that you should think about when you're starting your life, when you're a young person and things like that. It's rough to say. It's not all about trying to talk to eights and nines, she's all hot or he's gorgeous and all that good stuff. That's gonna fade. We all know it's gonna fade, right?
Yeah.
But if you got bad money habits, that's gonna stay with you. If you got bad money habits, that's gonna stay with you forever. Even
Yeah.
when you're divorced, that's gonna stay with you forever. You're gonna take that with you. And you're
It's,
gonna be
it's,
that person when you're divorced. So you're always gonna have that, no matter what, until you decide to change that.
I realize there's a lot of folks that it is the mismanagement of finances, right? We've seen it on Dave Ramsey's show. It's just like it's not that you don't have money; it's the fact that you're mismanaging the money.
And the
And
wild part is when people go on there, it's almost like you're telling on your partner because you're coming on there like, I didn't know that he went and spent all this money on crypto, or I didn't know she was hiding these credit cards and things like that. That's the crazy part. It's not even we're not on the same page. It's like we're hiding it from each other. So it's like you're going along thinking you guys are good. You think you're saving money, you think you're building your way to retirement, then all of a sudden you find out we're getting ready to lose our home because he took a HELOC out, to go buy some crypto or to go do something crazy like that. Or you think you're paying all your bills off and you think you're getting ready to be debt free and stuff like that. And then she has a bunch of credit cards that you don't know about. That's the kind of
crazy.
stuff that you see on Dave Ramsey and Ramit and things like that. So it's like it's really important to have that honesty and to have these conversations. So there's no surprises or anything like that, so you always pretty much know what your partner's doing. I understand everybody's grown-ups and stuff like that, but if you are a unit, if you are together where you're trying to achieve certain goals and stuff like that, these are the type of things that you cannot be hiding from your partner.
Yeah, we had a question right here, Eric.
Mhm.
So when you're speaking about final decision, do you hear about decisions related to final expense versus prepaid plans?
So to be honest with you, most of the things that I hear from clients when we talk, because people are living so much longer and stuff like that, and as we had on the last conversation about taking care of your parents and things like that. So a lot of people talk about long-term care, and as she's asking, I do see a lot of commercials and stuff like that. You really need to make sure that your parent or whoever has some type of insurance as well, because as you know, that can be a burden on you as well. If someone was to pass and they don't have their final expenses or some type of burial insurance, some type of prepaid stuff like she's trying to say, that can really be a detriment to you as well, as you're going along and all of a sudden, you're having to bury a family member. And that can really be a stumbling block for you. That can really hurt what you're doing financially. So we do have those kind of.
Yeah, quick question again.
So a lot of clients, as we talked about before, there are long-term care insurance policies that we talk about, but as people know, as you get older, almost like life insurance, those can get rather expensive to buy long-term care. It can get really, really expensive. So we usually try to talk to people about, is that something that you're going to do at a younger age? I hear people talk about putting stuff in trust because, as we know, as you get older, if you have to go to long-term care and stuff like that, depending on how much money you have, it is something that can really and truly drain you. It can really take almost all of your savings, all of your retirement, and things like that to put you in some type of long-term care. So a lot of people don't want to do that. They'd rather, stay at home, have a family member or somebody like that take care of them. But in most situations, that's not a good thing, especially somebody who needs 24-hour care. We know people who have to deal with those type of situations and things like that. So when you are talking about your planning, when we have those type of conversations, when we do like the asset map and things like that to talk about our final goals and things like that, that is really something that people should think about, is getting some type of long-term care and things like that, not just regular, life insurance, health insurance, and things like that. They should also be talking about getting some type of long-term care as well, with so many people living longer.
Yo, think about, can love sustain the relationship over the finances?
I don't know.
You
I
know
mean,
what I'm
I
saying?
guess
Like you're like, can love overcome the poor financial decisions and communication? And you think about the statistics, it didn't
it
work,
did.
right?
It
Right.
didn't.
No matter how
So
much I love you, because remember we watched just some of those videos where it's like they calling in saying like, I love him and all this kind of stuff, and it's just like, how much do you? But it's like everything was good. He's great father, all this kind of stuff, but you're really trying to break up over money. over money by itself. But you said all these great things about, being a father. He's always been a provider, but just making poor decisions. And you about to get out. And sadly, not to say it like this, but there were the wives that were calling in trying
Yeah,
to exit,
because
right?
they were very nervous, in a lot of situations like that, the man is the provider. Some of the women, like you said, were even homemakers.
Yeah.
They were stay-at-home moms. So you're expecting him to pay all the bills while you stay at home. Again, I'm not saying that that's the lesser. I'm just saying he's the one making the money and you're the one staying home taking care of the household. So you're thinking that he's taking care of the finances and things like that. And then when you find out that situation, it's hard to all of a sudden say, "Hey, well, I'm gonna break up and now I'm gonna go out here on my own and start paying these bills and things like that." That's a hard situation. That's a
Yeah.
hard conversation to jump up and say, even though you've done not a great job as far as taking care of the finances and things like that, but then to jump up and say, "No, I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna leave you and I'm gonna do I'm gonna do bad by myself." Is that how they say it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Correct. Wives are not feeling secure because you spent all this time. Um, that's your life. You've been the homemaker. You sat at home and let him take care of the bills. Like I've had the conversation before. Every year during tax season, I have at least 5 or 10 clients who come in where their spouse passed
Mm.
over the year, and he did all the taxes, he paid all the bills, he did everything, and they're like, I don't even know where to start. They're like, I just have all of this mail, and I'm assuming it's all tax related or whatever. So I always tell people just to bring in last year's tax return, so we can see all the stuff that was on last year's tax return, and then we just start looking for those type of things. But yeah, something as simple as that. Somebody who sits back and says, I don't even know how to pay the bills because he was paying all the bills and things like that. So it's a tough, it's a tough conversation. So imagine that conversation if he passed. So imagine if you're sitting in this situation like I can't leave him or I can't leave her because even though we're struggling together, I definitely can't make it on my own. Because a lot of people believe they can't afford to be out here on their own. They can't pay their bills on their own or whatever. So now you feel that you're stuck. You might be in a relationship that you can't get out of, point blank. From
Mm.
the man's from the breadwinner side, they're probably saying, "I don't want to give up half my stuff. I
Yeah.
don't want." Again, I've seen it. I've seen
Yeah.
it. I don't want to give up half my stuff. I don't want to do that. And from the other side, it's like, how do I start over?
Mm.
I can't leave this person because how do I start over? So again, in order to avoid that, you might be high school sweethearts, you might have been cool in college or whatever, but it's really a conversation that you need to have, to make sure that you're both evenly yoked and you both have a true understanding of what your goals are and things like that. Of course, people can change as they get older and stuff like that, so you might think one way today and then as you get older and stuff like that, especially sadly, as people get older and they start watching social media and things like that. So now you get nervous, you're panicking because you think you're behind, you can't understand your situation, compared to these other people who you think are rich and making all this money compared to you. So then that's when people start doing things like I said before, like taking out HELOCs and things like that to go buy a bunch of crypto or to go buy some real estate or go do things like that to start day trading, things like that, because you believe you're behind, right? And so now all of a sudden you're making decisions out of panic, out of fear. You're not thinking these things out. You're not um, really taking a look at it, seeing how this could make your situation worse than what it is today. You're just panicking. You're just acting off of emotions and things like that. And then you put your family in a tough spot. It's why I always harp when people talk about go get these business loans, go get these business line of credits, go do all these type of things, even though you don't have a business that's profitable or making money, or in some cases, you don't even have a business. And in many cases, it's why, because you're panicking. You're in a panic situation, you're in desperation because people are telling you. I saw one place where they said that if you don't have $5 million in retirement, you're gonna be broke. You see articles like that all the time, right? So think about the people who are thinking about that, who are panicking, who are acting all crazy and freaking out because they're like, "There's no way I'm gonna have enough money to retire, so I gotta figure out some way to make all this money and have all this passive income and things like that." And they're not bad things. It's not bad to have passive income. Of course, it's not bad to have that. But a lot of times we jump into things that we have no clue how to do those things, and you end up losing money trying to do them. Like the guy with the was it the crypto that he did the short sale on and lost the whole 250 or whatever.
Yeah,
He had
crypto.
no clue what he was doing.
Yep. Lost it all.
Lost it all.
Lost it all.
Or the people who go out and buy real estate and then you have a rental property that you can't rent out, or it's way more big of a headache. You have people in there who aren't paying rent, or you have a whole bunch of expenses and stuff that you can't afford. So now it becomes a nightmare. And all you were trying to do was grow passive income because everybody's telling you that owning a rental property has all this passive income and everything in it. Again, I'm not here to argue. Somebody's going to call and say, you know what you're talking about. I own a rental property. I own 10 rental properties. Good for you. Good for you. That's not how it works for everybody. Listen to some of these calls from these people who are calling into these places and telling you the nightmares that they're having trying to do these type of things. The people who believe if I go take a course or I go watch this guy or go listen to this person, now all of a sudden I'm day trading, right?
Yeah.
And again, there are plenty of people who lose money day trading, and it wouldn't be so bad, but you're putting your home at risk because you're taking out a HELOC. You're doing an equity loan. You're doing all kinds of things like that. You're getting business lines of credit. You're getting a bunch of business cards. You're doing those type of things. So you're putting your finances at risk. And again, it wouldn't be so bad if your spouse wasn't calling these shows and saying they had no idea that you were doing this. And so now
Mhm.
they're freaking out because your home's getting ready to be foreclosed on,
Would you
or
think?
your retirement is gone.
Would you think that the folks, whether it's um, the man or the female or whatever, as far as that person that's calling, that like it's embarrassing to be transparent with your partner in that sense because it could feel like you're failing your family? Because I know that as I'm working with a lot of men, you realize it's like they're trying to provide for their family, the overtime, the hours, they're trying to sacrifice to create and build a better life for their children, at the end of the day. So it's like, dang, I don't want to tell my partner that I'm dropping the ball on that
Right.
because it would create a lot more tension in the household,
Yeah,
right?
like you feel like you're a failure,
Like
and
you're a
you think
failure and you're like walking
that's
around like and to be all honesty, because I notice you lose your respect in the household. That's a different conversation, but you lose your respect. It's like you're not handling business. This may be for our generation, maybe. I don't know about the
right.
newer Gen Z, over here, but it's like if you're not bringing in the bacon or bread or whatever you want to call it, if you're not bringing in this and you're not handling business, you're not treated a certain type of way in your
Correct.
household to some degree, right? It's
Yeah.
like, well, you used to get chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, and corn,
This dude is
right?
stupid.
Now you getting a cold sandwich,
This dude is
right, with some chips.
yeah.
So you know what I'm saying? Like it's that idea that's like, oh, you was getting home cooked meals and the big daddy gets the big piece of chicken, right? Now you just getting a cold sandwich, cold cut, right? Because maybe it's the finances, maybe whatever, but it's almost that vibe. And I'm speaking from some experiences that I've seen, so that's why I'm like, oh dang, I will feel some type of way. Go ahead.
Do
What
you
do you say?
think some of that has to do with, what you're looking around, what you see around you? So, like, if you see other families doing certain type of things and your wife or your spouse is looking and saying, well, they get to do this, or she's doing this, or she's doing that. They get to go on vacations, they get to do that type of thing. So now you're feeling some type of pressure to do those type of things.
Yeah.
So then that's when you step out. It's almost like somebody who's going to a job and they feel the job isn't enough. So now I'm trying to grow a business outside of the job,
Right.
or even try to start a business because I'm trying to live this type of lifestyle that I'm believing everybody else is living. So
Woo.
now I'm going to step out of my comfort zone, so to speak, and I'm going to try to be more than what I am today, to try to not only try to be like them, in this case, as we're saying, I'm trying to be impressive in my household because I'm
Ooh.
afraid, especially because when you see all these people who say, I don't know where they're at because statistics show they don't make that type of money. But when you see these women say, if he's not making 150, $200,000
Yeah.
a year, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to talk to him and things like that. And those people are very, very rare who make that type of money. It's very, very rare for somebody to make that type of money. But they act like those type of dudes are, just you're just pulling them off of trees, like we're all out, like you're just pulling us off of trees, you, you know,
And then they will want you. That's a different conversation.
yeah, and then they will want you. So a guy who's making that type of money, Isaac, you always want to do it. So we'll just say, yeah, a guy who's making that type of money, you would think he's interested in you just because you're interested in him. And the crazy part to me is you're only interested in me because I make that type of money.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
So why would I be interested in you if, like you said, if I knew if that money went away, I'm going to teach and I'm going to treat you a certain type of way because I know that's why you're here. But that's getting off topic.
I know.
But again, when we talk about the biggest financial decisions that we can make, that would be number one.
Got a question about each from John.
Correct. No, no, I read it. I read
Okay.
what you said. So yes, you're absolutely correct. If I was in a situation where I was not the breadwinner, I would definitely want to have those type of conversations. I would definitely want to know how the bills are getting paid, what the situation is. I'd be afraid if something happened to that person that I'd be stuck like Chuck, as they say. I'd
Yeah.
be afraid if something happened to my partner and I had no idea how to pay the bills. I had no idea where the accounts were, how to get to money. If that person had like all the retirement accounts, all the money market accounts, if I didn't know where all that stuff was, if I didn't know how to pay all the bills and stuff like that, I'd be freaking out. But I guess because if you're the person doing that, then that's your mindset.
Yeah.
But she's right. If you're the person who's just sitting back saying, "Oh, I know that person's going to take care of it," I'm not really worried about it until it happens.
Yeah.
Until it happens. It's almost like how we have the conversation about wanting to have this conversation with your kids. So your kids aren't bombarded when they go out into the world and have no clue how to balance their checkbook, how to save money to pay their bills, how to make sure all these things are taken care of. That's something that you should be teaching your kids as well, teaching your kids how to invest and things like that. So when your kids get out into the world, they're not bombarded or have no clue how to do these type of things. So you would hope in your household you're doing and having these same conversations as well, but we just know for a fact that it's not always the case. You know, a lot of times, the other person is like, I'm not really concerned. And it's sad to say that, but a lot of times that's just what they say. They're like, I'm not really concerned about the bills. I know you're taking care of it and things like that. Until, like you said, if sadly, the people who call up to Dave Ramsey or Ramette and things like that, those are the ones who all of a sudden you're worried about it because you're getting foreclosure notices. Now it's a problem.
Yeah.
Now you're freaking out because you like, what on earth is going on? I thought you were taking care of the bills. I thought you were taking care of everything. But we've never sat down and had a conversation about how much the mortgage payment is, how much the car note is, how much we're spending every month on groceries, how much money are we putting away towards retirement? How close are we to having a number for retirement? Are we saving enough money for retirement? Do we have a lot of debt? All those type of things. A lot of times, like I said, somebody just to say, I'm the homemaker. So he or her is taking care of it. And I'm saying he or her because there are households where the husband stays at home.
That's what I'm trying to be.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be. Trying, trying to be a stay home
Uh,
dad.
yeah.
Trying to be a
That'd
stay
be
home.
great, right? So,
Trying to stay home dad. I
yeah.
am technically. I
But
work remote,
yeah.
but yeah,
But other financial decisions besides, let's, get off of marriage.
yeah,
But usually, like when you hear people say, I'm going to go to college and things like that, you really need to think about if college is really in your plans, meaning what do you really plan on doing and do you need a degree to do that? There are a lot of people out here who are very successful who have not stepped into college, who have not taken a day of college. So is it really worth it to spend all that money to go to college? And just because I go to college and have a degree, we all know a lot of people go and they get degrees that really aren't going to make them a lot of money. It might be a fulfillment for you. You
yeah.
might be, fulfilled in doing that job and stuff like that, but is having that job really going to help you financially? Does it make the type of money that's going to be able to pay your bills and live your lifestyle and things like that? And in many cases, that's not the situation. That's not the case. A lot of people just say they have degrees, and then as they get out in the world and they see that their degree is really not paying them the type of money that they want to make, so then you go out. So that's why you see all these people who have 3 and 4 degrees, right? We see
Yeah.
people called Dave Ramsey. They have like 3 and 4 degrees and have like $250,000 in student loan debt. And it's like, what, how on earth did you think you were going to get a job that was going to be able to pay your student loan debt back? That's kind of crazy to have that type of debt and then have a job that's not really making a whole bunch of money. But
I
again,
mean,
these are the things you should think about when you're in high school. Sit down and talk to somebody about what your goal is. What job do you want to have? What degree do you want to have? And think about how much those jobs make when you're out here. What is the average median for these jobs when you go out here and start talking about that's the type of career I want to have, and think about all the degrees and things that you have to have. So like what I do, obviously, in order to become a controller, a director, things in accounting, stuff like that, you need to go all the way up to your CPA. You just can't have a bachelor's degree, right? You got to have a master's degree. You got to have your CPA to do the finance, the security, the retirement planning, and the financial stuff that we talk about doing. You have to have your securities licenses. In some cases, you either got to be a CPA or a CFP. All types of things like that that you're going to have to do all the schooling for in order to make the type of money that you might want to make in this career. So you really need to think about that before you get started. It's almost like if somebody says they want to be a doctor, yeah, once you become a doctor and you've gone through residency and all that, you're going to make a lot of money. But are you willing to put in all that time and in most cases spend that type of money in school to do that?
so how should like families determine whether or not the degree is like actually a good, I guess, investment to that? Because you went to school,
Again, like I said,
you
I
went
would
to
look up.
school,
Again,
but
like I
like,
said, I would
why
look up how
didn't
much
you
they
go be
make.
a lawyer,
Yeah,
right?
if I
Why
look
didn't
at how
you go
much they
be a
make.
lawyer? You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying? And it's like you probably make more. I don't know what you make, but it's like you probably could make more a lawyer, or you
correct,
could be, you're Thomas J. Henry pulling in 50 million for every
correct.
case, right? Or whatever. So it's just like I'm pretty sure he probably got his money back on that, right? On that law
Definitely.
school and all that.
Yeah.
But it's like, is it okay to tell your kids when your families, those who are building families and kind of planning that, what should we be thinking about? Because if our kid wants to go be a teacher and we're spending all this money on being an educator, that's a lot of money to be an educator, and them not be, in a public school system. Maybe they want to do something of that nature, and a lot of folks just got cut, as far as their positions and a lot of different things. So thinking about that is, is it going to be worth it? And
Again, that's where it goes to, is that what I'm passionate about doing? Is that what I really and truly want to do? Like I said, I tell people all the time, I knew in the 11th grade I was
yep,
going to be an accountant, but I'm not an accountant anymore because when I was sitting at these firms and stuff like that, it's like they don't make enough money. So
yeah,
that's why I started my own business. I started doing financial planning, retirement planning, all types of things like that. So I had stepped it up from just being accounting. There was one time I'd even thought about being a math teacher,
oh,
right? But then it was like, no. No, not too funny. No, and again, it's not even a money thing. These kids are crazy. So there's no way I can teach these kids. But and I love teaching kids, but not on a daily basis like that. I'll just be honest with you. But so as I continued through my degrees and things like that, it was like, no, even when I was sitting, like I said, I was sitting at the firms and stuff like that. I always knew I wanted to do my own thing. So, that's when I went and got my securities licenses and all of that to be able to be a one-stop shop to do my own thing. And so that worked out for me. I was very fortunate that, that this has been, I'd say a pretty successful business right now. So you have to think about those type of things when you say I'm going to go to school and I'm going to do those type of things. If something you're passionate about and you know off top that it's not going to make you a whole lot of money and stuff like that, and you're fine with it, it's almost like somebody who says they want to be a director, say like at a nonprofit or something like that. More than likely it's not going to make you a bunch of money, but if it's a nonprofit that you're very, very passionate about, you see the fulfillment and the enjoyment of working with people and helping in the nonprofit and things like that. So you feel that's more, worth more than money. So like what you do, right? Outside of your job,
Yeah, I do a lot.
nonprofits, your nonprofit stuff you do, right? It's a passion for you.
I'm gonna say this, Eric, because as a parent and saying, think about those folks that are out there that are saying, hey, if I spend my, I'm paying for it, right? If I'm paying for it, parents are
Right.
sacrificing to pay for the education,
In
right? They're
many cases, yeah.
sacrificing their
In many cases.
retirement in some regard for their education. We talked about that last week. And then to get to the place is that we got you through that, we paid for all this, and then you still have to stay with me, right? Because you can't afford and you got a degree that doesn't, in the marketplace, in the workplace value, doesn't pay you as well, right? So now it's like, well, I could put you over here, but you're going to be struggling, and I'm going to have to pay. I'm going to have to pay for you now, just so you can make your car payment, or or a little bit on the rent, just so you don't have to come stay with me, because that's the part of being adult, right? So thinking about that as now in planning, it's like that's kind of scary, knowing that,
Well, in all
you know,
fairness, that's partly this economy as well, but at the same time, you're correct. Like you
I,
said, there are a lot of people who go out here, they finish school and stuff like that, and it's hard to even find a job in your career, in your field
yeah,
with your degree. And then, like we said before, a lot of people, again, that's more, again, I hate always saying his name, but that's more of a Dave Ramsey thing. When people say, when he says, "What's your degree in?" And then when they tell him, he just starts shaking his head and stuff like that because he's like, why on earth would you believe that that degree is going to get you the type of job to make the type of money that you need to make to be able to live out here, whatever. Again, that's not on me to say that, but that's what a lot of people believe when you go. But for me, more than anything else, like I said before, if if I was getting ready to start college today, I would definitely, because like when I go and talk to teens and stuff like that, we always say, what do you plan on being? And some of these kids say some of the craziest stuff I've never even heard of. And so it's like, it's where these kids look these things up. They looked these careers up, they looked up these degrees and said, "Hey, they make this type of money if you have this type of degree, if you're in this field." So it's like, they've looked these type of things up. They're not just like simple jobs or something like that. It's stuff that is like, I want to be this. And it's like, wow, I've never even heard of that before. And you ask them to explain it and they explain it to you and all that. And it's like, well, how much does that make? And then when they say, it's like, okay, I get it. I get it. So it's good that a lot, especially like the kids who I talk to, they're already looking these type of things up. They're already figuring out that, hey, I have to have this type of degree. I have to have this type of schooling, these type of licenses, and things like that to be able to have this type of job that makes this type of money. Instead of somebody who just says, hey, I'm just going to school and then I haven't even figured out my major to my junior year. I'm just kind of coasting, you know, and then I just have a degree. I just have a degree. And then when I get out, I don't, it's like I have no clue what I'm going to do, but I just know I went to this school and I have a degree from this school,
it's
which you
good that
see a lot of.
you talked about that, Eric, because it's like after you get the degree, right? you're in your career, but then some of us ain't are not getting paid the way we would like to get paid, right?
Correct.
And then you're looking at like your career versus calling. And there's some folks when you get older, obviously you realize, and you're familiar with that because you probably heard this. Well, you're passionate, you're in this. What is your end game? I've heard that before for some from someone. What is your end game? I was like, what do you mean? Right? It's like where you're working, you're doing this. Are you planning on being full time? Is this your calling, or should you stay in the career field? Right now, this is a hard decision. That's why this is a hard decision because there's folks that are out there trying to figure out whether or not they should do something that they're passionate about. Like they got their degree, they're doing that, and you've seen people go open up businesses and go out here and struggle at the end of the day, right?
Correct.
um and you're like, well, this is what I want to do, and by all means I'm willing to sleep on the couch at somebody's house to start my business, versus you have you had a six-figure position, right, at a firm or at somewhere doing well, state or whatever, and then now you're over here where you're in the trenches, so to speak, right? Because you're either it's a cause or it's something you want to do. So how should someone, make these decisions or start that business and calculate the risk of
I would
all these different career choices that they want to make?
I would definitely sit down with a legitimate, successful person in what I'm trying to do and have a conversation with them. Not the person you see on social media who's lying and saying they're making all this money. Not the person who goes to social media, who goes to events and is walking around telling everybody that they're successful in their business. So you're thinking, I'm going to go do this because this person is doing it and they're successful in doing it. Really sit down and have a conversation with somebody who you know is successful in what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish, and they can walk you through it. They can give you the conversations, they can talk about the things that you need to do to be able to be successful in that field that you're trying to do, especially a business. I know a lot of times it's hit or miss and stuff like that. One of the craziest things, I'll just be bluntly honest with you.
There
It's
you go.
wild to me. It's wild to me, Isaac, when you see all these people on social media who are selling fixed annuities and IULs and insurance and stuff like that. That stuff has the highest turnover rate you wouldn't believe. Eric, how do you know? Where was I working at before I opened my business?
Mass Mutual.
I was a manager there.
Yeah.
I sold you your policy.
Yeah.
Ask me the turnover of the people who came in there to sell insurance.
What's the turnover?
The turnover is crazy. It is
Almost
actually wild.
like
It's
90 some percent, 90 some percent, high
most
90s.
of the time, when I sit and I talk to people who I see on social media and stuff like that, who come crazy at me and stuff like that, when I try to talk to them, they say, "No, no, talk." When I'm talking about, what do I always say to them? You won't be doing this in 6 months.
No.
How many times we sat in front of somebody at a meeting and a Zoom meeting or something like that, and I said, "You won't be doing this in 6 months." You know what you're talking about. Okay. You will be a rare commodity if you are still doing this after 6 months.
You
You will
better
be
be
rare.
you better be
You,
something special.
you ought to be something special. Because again, there's so many people out here doing it, and so many people who are not as educated as they think they are to be able to do it. You just know the script. You just know that, again, all you got to do is Google some of this stuff on why this is not a good thing, but all they're doing is telling you why it's great in order to sell it. And then you can't understand why you can't sell it. How many times do we sit there and we hear people say, I can't understand why nobody wants to buy this. This is such a great product and stuff like that. And you're like, it's really not. It's really and truly not when you think about it. It's not a horrible product, but it's not as great as you want to think it is. And the sad part is, like you said, Isaac, people, we actually know people who quit jobs to go and do this stuff. I did too, right? I did too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I was gonna say
But
that. I was like, you
I
ain't
did
gonna put
too, right?
yourself in there,
But I
man.
was already doing my thing.
Yeah.
I went there to get my securities license. I was already doing my thing. But when people actually quit their jobs and stuff because they believe these type of things are going to make them this type of money, and all you got to do is go sit down and talk to somebody who's in the business, who really and truly has been in the business for a while, and they'll tell you this is not This is not easy. It's commission based. It's eat what you kill. There's so many people out here trying to do it. It has a bad reputation. You really have to have a story. You really have to know what you're doing. People are going to be able to tell if you're authentic or if you're just somebody on social media out here selling it because you're under the belief that everybody is telling you that this is how you can make all this money doing it. And most people don't. It's like back in the day, everybody had a real estate license, right?
Hey, that industry is rough.
Dead.
It's rough
Rough
right
right
now.
now. But everybody had a real estate license back like back when I started doing this. There was so many real estate agents I had as clients because everybody said they could sell real estate. Everybody believed it was such a boom and you were making all this money selling real estate. And there are a lot of people I was sitting in a meeting with Christy where they were like, and it's true, I read the articles. They said like 85% of real estate agents have not sold a property this year. I have real estate agent clients who we're talking through the year because it's like, hey, usually during the year, we're talking about your profit and loss statements. We're talking about doing estimated payments. You know, throughout the year, we're not waiting till the end of the year. And they're like, Eric, it is horrible right now. They're like, Eric, I don't have any money. We're not making any money right now. It is horrible out here right now. So imagine somebody who really is just starting and really isn't good at it. You're just doing it because somebody told you that you can make all this money doing it. Day trading,
Yeah.
crypto, things like that. There's so many people who you watch social media, you watch all these people who you believe are making all this money doing this. So you run out and you go do it. And in some cases, sadly, pay all this money for the courses and don't even make your money back. So if somebody was to ask me what would be if I was to start a business today, what would be the first thing I'd do? I would definitely research what I'm looking to do. I would see if there's a market for it. If I'm providing a need, if I'm fulfilling a need, and I would definitely try to go find somebody who's very successful in this, who's gone through the ups and downs of it, and have them have a conversation with you and talk to you about it to tell you it's not as easy as everybody makes it seem to do these type of things to own a business. Like they said, most businesses don't make money the first 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And the funny part about that is that's why the IRS says you can show your business negative 3 of the first 5 years, right? 3 out of 5 years, because they expect your business to be negative. So imagine quitting your job. That was today's article. That's crazy, Isaac. We always do that, right? That was today's article. When people talk about going to start a business, I keep telling you, these articles are not just off the top of my head. These are conversations. The articles that I write are conversations that I have with clients. When people say, Eric, I want to quit my job and start this business, do you have reserves? Do you have the things, securities, insurance, lots of stuff? There are cycles, correct. Do you have reserves? Are you married? Does your spouse make enough money to pay the bills while you grow your business? I don't want to say, do you have a line of credit or do you have business credit? But if you're trying to grow your business, you really and truly might need that. But at the same time, if your business does not grow, if your business is not successful, now you have an extra bill because you spent all this money or took all this money out for this line of credit or for these business credit cards and your business didn't succeed. Those are the things you need to think about before you just quit your job and start this business, or before you go and spend all this money on this course to be able to do this business. And then once you spent all this money on the course, now you're out here and now you don't have any clients, right?
Yeah.
It happens all the time. But and again, I tell people all the time, when you hear people saying that if you only have one form of income, you're dead. Once you lose your job, that's it. So you see people trying to create 7 forms of income and things like that, and none of them are making any money.
You said 7 forms of income.
Ain't
That's
that what
what
they say?
that's what they say. Seven
That's
streams.
7 streams. I'm sorry, not forms. 7 streams of income, and none of them are making any money. But you got 7 streams of income.
All right. That's good,
So you're
Eric.
ahead of the person who has the one stream that's making money, that they're putting reserve, they're building reserves, got a retirement, they're doing all types of things in that one stream of income, but they're telling you you're crazy because you have something that's making money. But this other person's like you see them on social media all the time. When you see down on their thing, they're like they're doing all these things and none of them are making any money. But
Right.
they have a whole bunch of businesses.
Man, I know this has been good, sir. This has been good. I know we're coming up on that hour right now. How you feeling?
Man, I'm good. So, but no, but honestly, those are like the biggest decisions as a young person. And for me, if I was a young person, if I was right out of college and stuff like that, or getting ready to graduate college and things like that, I would really sit down. I would find a mentor. I would talk about all types of things. And I don't mean just a mentor for your business. I would find like almost like a life coach, somebody who can sit down and talk to you about all aspects of your life, not just your business, your finances, your budget, you might even want to talk to somebody again, like getting married, about lifestyle, all types of things. Somebody who you really and truly trust, someone who you look up to, someone who you admire, to have those type of conversations because there's so many things in life. Like we just said, all your decisions are not financial. They're not all financial, but interestingly enough, your finances can be affected by almost any decision that you make.
Right.
They're not all
Absolutely.
financial decisions, but the decisions that you make, your finances can be affected by those decisions that you make. So, like they say, it's great to be young and, live your life, do all types of things like that. But you really need to make sure that you are staying on a path and that you are doing the type of things that are not going to trip you up as you continue to grow. You don't want to be somebody who I'm young, so I'm getting a bunch of credit cards, I'm going on vacations, I'm doing all these things, and then I can't afford to buy a home. I can't afford to do all these things because my credit is all jacked up. We talk about investing and things like that. You need to understand the importance of investing at such a young age. There's so many things. Again, like I said, get a mentor, get somebody who you really and truly trust, who you think is successful, not only financially but successful in life. They don't have to be, a rich person or anything like that who can give you wisdom and knowledge. There are so many people who are not, financially successful as far as making a whole bunch of money and stuff like that, but they have so much life experience and things like that that they can definitely help you on your road, to again, I hate just saying finances because again, it's not just finances in your life, the decisions that you're going to have to make. But again, all decisions that you make somehow then go back to how your finances are impacted. So you really need to have a conversation. If it's your parent, if it's somebody who you trust, somebody in church, somebody at a job that you're thinking about working at, somebody who you've seen in the neighborhood who you really and truly admire. Really sit down. Take that person out for coffee or for lunch or something like that, and sit down and talk to that person and have them kind of mentor you and tell you about their life, the things that they've experienced. What type of advice they would give you on the type of decisions that you need to make as you're growing up and and living, with your finances, your life, and all those type of things. So I would definitely do that. We talk about a great financial decision. I would even say that getting a mentor.
Good. That's good.
Somebody want me to call it a life coach or whatever, but definitely, just get somebody who, and again, you don't even have to call them a mentor. Just go talk to your uncle, go talk to, your older cousin, somebody who you really and truly admire, who you think is successful in life. And again, when someone says successful in life, it's not just financial, not just because they drive a nice car, you see them going on vacation all the time and stuff like that. That doesn't mean they're successful financially. We all know that, right?
Yeah.
They can be in deep debt and things like that. Someone who you really and truly think has their stuff together, who you really and truly admire and think can help you, go down and, go and sit and have a conversation with those people. That would be a great financial decision that you can make as well. So that's three right there off top in this
Yeah.
hour. Marriage, college, and getting a mentor.
That's good. Thank you, Eric. That's been great. This has been great, man. Y'all heard it from the man himself. Y'all heard it from the man himself. Y'all heard it from the man.
That
Amen.
clapping is killing me.
There he is,
That is killing me.
there he is. So yeah, so thank you, Eric. Really appreciate you this evening sharing your wisdom, knowledge, and lived experience. Definitely, it's always a pleasure. Tonight really wasn't about money, you guys. Y'all heard it. It was about wisdom. That's what Eric said. So every one of us will face decisions that can't be undone overnight. So and the goal isn't to just make perfect decisions. None of us will. But the goal is to make thoughtful, informed decisions that align with the life that we're trying to build at the end of the day. So thank you guys for spending your evening with us. I'm Isaac Rowe, your host, and this is Eric Anderson. You give it up for him. And this has been Mastering Money live on this Tuesday with Eric Anderson. Until next time, make wise decisions because today's choices become tomorrow's legacy. You guys, we'll see y'all next week. Follow us on the Financial Turtle, Anderson Taxes, on social media, all platforms. We'll see you
All
then.
right, sir. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you
All
soon.
right.
All right.